Hey all, welcome to another episode of Breadboarding with Alan. I'm Alan, and this is one of our many breadboards. The circuit we're going to check out today is the Gemini. It's a fairly obscure Mountain King design. It's a octave up / frequency doubler circuit. I designed it not so much to be like an Octavia or Green Ringer, but to be something that you would play chords on and have a more extreme, clangy, resonant, dissonant sound. Something that reminiscent of like Eastern stringed instruments. So I worked at trying to pull out certain sounds. I ended up taking it to another level and creating another circuit called the Crystal, but spelled XTAL, like the crystal resonators that are used in electronics, are spelled, which has a bunch of extra controls and mangles the sound even further. But this holds its own. It's not so much that the Crystal is a more developed version of the Gemini. They're two different circuits, really. And I really love the Gemini for its simplicity and for its just has a wide frequency range, has nice articulate highs, and then it has deep lows. You can really use it on any instrument. A lot of these frequency doubler type circuits don't have enough low end to really work on bass well, and but I made sure that this one did. So why I have this on the breadboard? Recently, a few weeks ago, someone got in touch with me and said, "Hey, I know this guy has this pedal you built called the Gemini, and I wanted to know if I could order one from you." I was like, "Oh, geez, that's a long time ago." The only thing that I've done with that Gemini was I built a prototype of it, and I sold it years ago, and just kind of put it aside. And I was like, "Yeah, I could do that." And so I was like, I just gotta see if I have the schematic for it. And I found the file that was for the Crystal and the high freq, because it has circuit also has to do with these other circuits. But I looked in there and I saw a schematic that I thought was the one that I used for that prototype. And the person that contacted me ended up getting gut shots of the circuit board from the guy who owned the prototype, which was definitely helpful. Although not, didn't tell me everything. It just kind of gave me a good idea that the schematic I was looking at was the right one. Although that had a bunch of notes all around the circuit, so I wasn't sure if I ended up adding in some of those things that I made notes about or what. So I thought, well, I'll just breadboard the circuit, and I'll be able to find out the way it's supposed to be. Like I know what it sounds like, and I'll be able to tweak it and get it to where it's supposed to be, so that this has something that sounds like the other pedal, a prototype. So I've been, messing with it for a little while now, and I love the way it sounds. It's fun to revisit circuits of mine that I haven't checked out in a long time. Especially stuff like this that I didn't work on it forever, like some stuff. I mean, it took me time, of course, but and like I said, it had developed into other circuits. So, yeah, it was just exciting. And just looking through all the schematics, I want the high freak, which is a high frequency booster. It's not really what you would call a treble booster, because things like, the range master and stuff, it's not like that. It's this circuit is more of like a high frequency enhancer or something. And it basically, the high freak, it allows you to turn the gain up, but the gain has a cutoff frequency so that it's only boosting frequencies above a certain frequency. So you don't lose low end, you're just boosting highs. And you can really get some like unique, articulate, like weird upper harmonics, especially when you push it. Now, the preamp for this uses the same type of circuit as the high freak, except it's much simpler and it's not an extreme high frequency boost to it. I set it so that it gives a nice clarity and remove some of the low end, because what follows in the Gemini is the phase splitter / combiner. This part of the circuit that creates the magic, the crazy clangy octave up stuff, and that it's feeding it something with too much low end just kind of makes it messy and it's just not good. But if you give it more highs, it has more to work with and not get overloaded by. And then that part of the circuit is followed by like a post amp that's it's basically a clean boost, but it adds oomph. Like it adds a lot of like low end power, and also makes the high end even more articulate, and yeah, it balances it all out. And then on the output of that circuit, the last part of the circuit is a low a low pass filter, which allows you to remove high end, and it's with it because of the complexity of the frequency doubling circuit, not the complexity of the circuit, but the complexity of the signal that comes from it. Removing highs it's not just removing highs, it kind of gives the shape of the sound a different shape. You'll see. And the great thing about the circuit is it works on all types of instrumentation, whatever you have. The preamp, I forgot to say, right before the preamp is basically a volume control, a drive control that allows you to set how hard your instrument signal hits the input of that. Allows you to determine how much oomph, how much there's distortion within this, but it's not distortion the way you think. It's just warping out the signal in a way. Whatever. I'm getting too wordy, I think. Let's listen to just the preamp first, so you can see what that is doing. As you can hear, it just gives it a little bit of chiminess, and like I said, it's there to feed the following circuit, which is, like I said, that part that does all the frequency doubling and the clanginess. I can't turn it up anymore because there's not enough. The post amp isn't there yet, but I wanted to show you what it sounds like without that post amp first, because it's more about the clang. Alright, and then we add the post amp. Turn this down. As you can hear, there's a ton of low end that comes in. And the wound strings sound different than the unwound strings. Like, there's a drastic effect, really. Here, let's see. Is it wound? Unwound. You hear this? There's a whole other weird, splatty harmony. And if we turn down the input a bit, you get just kind of, it's mostly there to accommodate different instrument strengths so that it doesn't get overloaded. But it also determines some amount of distortion. And then we have the low pass filter. Now, of course, on these types of circuit, people always talk about, to pull out the clearest octave up sound, you switch your guitar to the neck pickup and then roll back your tone controls. So you get, and then you play high on the neck. So you, get some great dive bomb, deep subby harmonics. The thing The great thing about this circuit, in my opinion, is it allows you to just create other sounds. Like it's not so much about adding an octave up effect to what you're playing. It's about transforming the sound of your guitar and then allowing you to do things that wouldn't normally yield much, but with this effect, you can hear it's a whole other universe. It's kind of like prepared piano sounding stuff. It reminds me when I was messing with it and just kind of rocking out on it a bit. I was like, this is something that like Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth would, it allows you to get that prepared guitar sound, but with just an effect rather than sticking stuff in your strings and mangling it, which is, appreciate that too. Alright, I just realized my my oscilloscope wasn't hooked up. This is like the millionth take of this, and it, the previous take was, I recorded 26 minutes of silence, so it's kind of out of sorts here. Let's listen to bass. Wah! Grabbing shit. One sec. As you can hear, it's got plenty of low end for bass. So while I was breadboarding this initially and experimenting with it, I realized that one thing I've never sent through this circuit was a microphone. So I was like, okay, I got to find out what the mic sounds like through this, or what vocals sound like through it, I guess you'd say. So let me move the regular mic away, see.
It's got this octave effect on it, just like everything else. It's like a helium balloon. Silent helium.
Goes from this
to this. See here. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Check this one.
Some harsh noise experiments would be good. Some Masana action. So anyway, there you go. So I'm gonna build one of these for this customer. I don't know. At some point, I want to release it, just like all these other designs. It's just hard to decide which to go to next. I just have too many. Like if I had released more of these along the way, I wouldn't have this giant pile of designs that I can't decide on. What I need to do is build prototypes for them, not sell the prototypes like I always do. Hold on to them so I can have a battle of the prototypes and have you guys help me pick which one I put out next. The dolmen is being released now, so that's a good sign that maybe I'm actually going to do this, make it happen. So yeah, we'll see when, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'll release a whole bunch of pedals at once and just, deal with it. It's just, it's hard keeping stock, having stock of parts and in particular enclosures for a bunch of pedals. So it kind of becomes complicated, and it's just, like I always say, it's just me. So it's kind of, it makes things very difficult, and I don't know. I need to find someone to help me out with all of this and just be a part of it. So whatever, that's for another conversation. Anyway, thanks for joining me at the breadboard again, and please like, subscribe, and comment, so I can get this stuff out there to more people, and let me know what you think. So yeah, thanks y'all.